Okay, when it comes to translation, I was talking about Aazhoomog, which means, or talks about our winter legends, our stories that are told only during the winter. Prior to talking about them, though, I mentioned the importance of raising our children in and around a lot of this, especially those things that were given to our Anishinaabe children. When they're raised in and around that and are given those teachings, as they get older, it's really clear in their mind that they are Anishinaabe. And that's their background. And usually they have appreciation for a lot of that. What we are given as a people, and I was talking about gangs, that's a lot of our communities, our reservations, or our gangs surfacing. And it's human nature to want to belong and to be a part of. When we're raised this way, with all these teachings and different ceremonies for us as a people, it was always clear to me and others that I was Anishinaabe. But when you have our children today that are not raised around that, and then you have the influence of this other society, it's like they're in limbo. They are not feeling a part of our Anishinaabe community or don't feel comfortable in the white community. And what happens, that's where the idea of gangs come along, and that appeals to them. It's a place to belong. But it's not a good place to go for belonging, because you know all the damage it can do. So I'm just stressing the importance of parents making all of this available to our children and to realize the depth, the importance of all of this. I've always said, and I keep saying that there is a reason that we have a lot of those teachings today. They're valuable, and our people should not discount them and continue to offer that to their children. Anyway, the importance of these Aazhoomog and these winter legends. When I was a child, the old lady that raised me was the one that told me those stories. And they could be only told in the wintertime when the first snow fell. I would get really excited because I know she would start to tell those stories at night. And she would continue telling those stories all winter long until right around about New Year's. And she says, I'm going to retell those stories now and send them back to where they came from. That's just showing the respect that our people had for a lot of the things that we were given. And she told me to try to stay awake. When I tell you these stories, do not fall asleep. If you listen carefully, you could get some help from these stories. You got to remember, she would say, the characters in these stories are maniduk. These are spirits. They can help you. And you can get something from these stories that can help you in your future. So, and usually when you approach anybody to tell you any of these stories, be sure you have your tobacco, a gift, maybe a blanket, give them some tea to drink while they're telling these stories. And some of the characters in those stories, those Aazhoomog, and one of them that they talked a lot about was Wenabushu. Wenabushu was a Manidu, a spirit that lived with us as a people at one time. He was gifted as a Manidu, but he was also part human being, part Anishinaabe. And he would always do a lot of foolish things that came from him being Anishinaabe or a human being. And you hear those stories and you realize here's a Manidu that we did some crazy things. And that was I know for me, I always say, well, look what the Wenabushu did, some of the foolish things, and they gave me permission to do some of the foolish things or to get away with some of the foolish things I do today. So, some of the other ones in that stories, no stories, was his grandmother. Gukamisakinan, they call her, grandmother of the earth. He had some brothers that they also talked about in a lot of those stories. I can remember that old lady telling them about that one character, about this woman. She was so beautiful that she had a golden forehead. She must have been quite the beauty. But I remember that, her talking about that. Who were some of the others that, of course, a lot of the animals were in those stories, but there was always a lesson in there. One of them, she always talked about a lot about too. One of the characters was, it's this little boy. They called him Miginans, which means scabby. Evidently had an acne problem or something. That's a little guy. But even though he was portrayed as an underdog, in a lot of those stories, he ended up coming out as a winner. So never underestimate anybody, no matter what their circumstances are. So there were a lot of lessons in these stories that our children can use today. So that's about all I can say about our winter legends. Just that they're very valuable for our young people. I'm hoping that a lot of our parents bring those back into their homes and available to our young ones today. That's it.